Get ready for a quick quest guide for the Haunted Mine quest, in which the main rewards for completing are the ability to make and use Salve Amulets for a strong bonus against undead monsters, access to Tarn's Lair, access to a shortcut to the crystal outcrops, 22,000 strength XP, and 2 quest points. You'll need to have completed the Priest in Peril quest before taking on this one, and when it comes to skill requirements, you'll just need to have 35 crafting. This being said, having 40 prayer is also very helpful for access to protect from ranged. 50 combat is also recommended for this quest, and you'll need the combat ability to defeat a level 95 enemy ghost that's weak to magic and has a 25% air spell weakness, so I'd suggest a magic setup with your best air spell. Now this ghost is way harder than its combat level suggests, and it's a prolonged fight with the boss teleporting all around the room while dealing constant chip damage that'll wear you down. In short, do not underestimate this boss. When it comes to items, you'll only need a chisel, however there's a lot more that I'd recommend. This includes a magic setup as mentioned before, alongside a decent staff and runes to cast your best air spell. Bring runes for around 200 casts just to be safe. Know that you can alternatively use ranged or melee setups too if you've got decent stats, for example above base 60s. I'd also suggest having 2 stamina potions, 2 prayer potions, and around 16 to 18 pieces of high healing food. Don't skimp on the food, because if you don't beat the boss on the first try, then you'll have to do a large chunk of the quest all over again to reach him. Seriously, you want the highest healing food that you have access to. On top of this, if you have 55 mining and want to complete a hard Mauritania diary task, then also bring along a pickaxe you can use. Then in terms of teleports, you'll just want to teleport for getting to the quest start. For example, a Morton teleport scroll, although I'll pop up more options for getting to the quest start on screen. Additionally, you'll want to teleport to anywhere for after the quest is completed. Finally, know that you'll also want to have 2 empty inventory spaces at the quest start. Now you can begin this quest just north of the abandoned mine located southwest of Morton. This is easily reached by using a Morton teleport scroll to Morton and running from there. If you've completed the innate of the Marquis quest, then you can go through Bergderot south and then west, but otherwise you'll want to go northwest from Morton and follow the windy path for what feels like an eternity until you can pop out at the quest start south. As Morton teleport scrolls cost around 25k coins, know that if you've completed the Shades of Morton quest, then you can use the Shades of Morton minigame teleport to Morton for free. I'll also show some additional teleport options on screen as well. To start the quest, talk to the Zealot and begin by saying, "I follow the path of Saradomin." Then add, "I come seeking challenges and quests." And following this, select yes to officially begin the Haunted Mine quest and continue through a long chat before asking, "Why was everyone in the mine slaughtered?" And after more chatter ask, "Is there any other way into the mines?" And follow up by asking, "Where is the second entrance to the mine?" And then afterwards ask, "Can I borrow your key?" And after he says no, continue the chat, and when more chat options appear, simply right click on the Zealot and select to pickpocket him to obtain the Zealot's key. Once you have the key, run south from the Zealot until you're below the mine, and then run west for a little while before looping up north. And this will bring you to 2 cart tunnels that act as entrances to the mine. Select to climb down the more southern cart tunnel to enter onto floor 1 and then run east a short ways before climbing down the ladder. When you reach the second floor, simply run east a short ways and then climb down another ladder. And now on the 3rd floor, things get a bit trickier. Firstly, head north by looping around to the east and back west, but don't step on the minecart tracks. You'll notice a minecart making its way up and down the track, and under no circumstance do you want to touch it, or else you can be dealt repeated damage as it pushes you, and this can really add up if you're not careful. Wait until the minecart stops near you and turns to move south, and then follow it before ducking into the nook in the wall on the east. Now wait for the minecart to go south and then return back north. and after it passes you, then step back onto the tracks and run south all the way to the end of the track and climb down the ladder a tad southwest to reach the 4th floor. Firstly, head a tad northeast and then pick the blue glowing fungus nearby to the skeletons. Afterwards, run northwest until you see a minecart. Use your glowing fungus on the minecart to place it inside. Following this, run north, and when you reach a heap of tracks, go a tad west, whereby you'll see a point setting board. Select to check this, which will bring up an interface, and this interface has 11 points labeled A through to K, where the minecart can go in one of two directions, shown by the light red and dark red arrows. What makes things a little tricky is that the current direction that the arrows are pointing in is random for everyone, and so you'll be seeing a slightly different image or different directions to myself. Now I'm going to pop up on screen the solution to this puzzle, and what you're going to want to do is go through each point or letter, and whenever its directions do not match the solution shown, you'll want to write down that letter. So for me, points A, B, C, D, E, I, and J were all wrong and needed to be fixed, but you'll very likely have a different set of letters that are wrong and need fixing. Once you've made a note of every letter that's currently wrong, you can then close the point setting interface. Now run northwest, following the curves of the cave before turning and going a tad east, whereby you'll come across a group of 6 levers, which represent letters F through to K. You can inspect them to find out which letter the lever represents, however I'll also pop up a visual on screen showing which lever represents which letter. For any letters you noted down earlier as being wrong, you'll want to pull those levers. So for me, I pulled the levers that related to I and J, but you'll likely be pulling a different set of levers that relates to whichever points were wrong on your unique board. After you've done this, retrace your steps back west and then southeast to the point setting board, and then go a tad further east and south to the cart that you popped the glowing fungus into. From here, head east for a short ways before turning and going north and just a little bit west, which will bring you to 5 more levers. Once again, you can inspect them to find out which letter the lever represents. However, I'll also pop up a visual on screen showing which lever represents which letter. For any letters that you noted down earlier as being wrong, you'll want to pull those levers. So for me, that was all 5 of the levers, being A, B, C, D, and E. However, you'll likely be selecting a different set of levers that relates to whichever points were wrong on your unique board. After you've done this, you'll want to retrace your steps south and then west back to the minecart, and then further north for a short ways and a tad west to the point setting board, which you'll want to check. Now once again, I'll pop the correct solution up on screen, and you'll want to make sure that the light and dark red arrows for each point on your own unique board now match the correct solution that you're seeing on screen. If needed, go back to the levers and correct any that slipped by. Once everything looks to be in order, select Start on the point settings interface, which will start a cutscene whereby the glowing fungus located in the cart travels through a maze of tracks to the ladder. After it finishes, the interface will show its travel path, and it should look like mine that you're seeing on screen. If your cart didn't make it, then you'll want to go back and add another fungus to the cart before checking all of your points, fixing any that were wrong by pulling levers, and trying again. With the cart correctly in place, close the interface and it's time to return to the surface. Firstly, run a tad east and then south before continuing southeast and further south to the ladder leading back up to level 3, and then climb it. Once again, you'll have that pesky self-moving minecart north of you. Wait until it reaches you and then changes direction to go north, and then follow the minecart north before ducking into the little alcove east. Then wait for the cart to continue north, change direction and go back south. And once the cart travels south past you, then head back onto the tracks and go a tad north before taking the eastern path and looping around south to the ladder before climbing up to the 2nd floor. From here, run west for a short ways and climb up the ladder, and then run further west to the cart tunnel and select to crawl through it to reach the surface. A quick side note that if by chance you're worried about supplies, now is the time to go and stock up on food or anything you need, as you won't get another chance to restock without having to redo a large portion of the quest. Now go a tad north and crawl through the northern cart tunnel. Then travel just a little bit east and select to climb down the ladder. Afterwards, run northeast for a little while until you see a large group of stacked crates, and then climb down the ladder just north of it. Now run west until you reach the western wall of the floor, and climb down the ladder that's just a little bit to your north. You'll now be back on the 4th floor, and importantly you'll want to search the minecart to see the glowing fungus is inside. Select take it to pop it into your inventory, and very importantly do not drop this fungus or leave the abandoned mine until after this quest is completed, as if you do, then you'll need to use the minecarts to transport over another one of the glowing funguses, as they'll turn to ash if you leave the mine. Once you have it, climb back up the ladder and then run a little south and then east all the way to the most northeastern corner of the level. To your south will be another moving cart. Simply wait until it starts moving south from its most northern point and then run southwest to pass it. And afterwards climb down the ladder to your west to arrive back on the 4th floor. Now travel south, and when the path forks, take the eastern path until you're blocked off by some pipes, but don't do anything further. Also, just be wary of the skeletal miners who might come to life as you pass them. Very importantly, you'll now want to check your run energy and make sure you have around 50%, maybe even 70% if you have heavy equipment, just to be safe. Also, if you have a stamina potion, then drink a dose of this now too. Then this next step needs to be done really quickly. Firstly, use your Zealot's key on the water valve, and then immediately click on the lift south of the pipe and select to go down it. This will see you run all the way back around to the lift as you try and outpace a mischievous ghost that spawns. When you get close to the lift, spam click it to head down and crash into some water. Now go south for a little ways, and when you reach a wall, turn and run east, and continue east until you reach a large staircase that you'll want to go down. Then head west for a little while and open the door to enter into the boss room. Do not take the innocent looking key to your west just yet, as this will begin the boss fight, but rather head over to it, and then I suggest watching on ahead before taking on this boss. Now there are 3 key ways that you'll be damaged during this fight. Firstly, Treus will hit you with ranged attacks where he throws pickaxes at you. These max 15, however if you pray protect from range then you'll gain 33% protection and the max hit will be lowered to 10. The next way is from cranes, which deal typeless damage when you're standing next to them. Try to avoid standing next to them if possible, but also sometimes just tank the damage if it means avoiding standing on a minecart track. And this is because the third way that you can be dealt damage is from the minecarts that autonomously move along the tracks. In particular, these can be really dangerous and deal rapid damage that accumulates quickly as the cart pushes you. At all times, avoid stopping and standing on minecart tracks. Treus will also move around the room repeatedly throughout the fight, going east, west, north or south. He can't be damaged while he's moving, and you'll want to chase him around to where he surfaces and continue dealing damage to him, ideally with air spells which Treus is weak to, all the while praying protect from ranged and avoiding standing on the minecart tracks. If possible, avoid being next to the cranes too. One thing to note is to be particularly careful if Treus goes north, as there's very little space to stand. Aim to stand on the northern empty squares and don't get caught out on the tracks like I did in my test run, which was a bit of a disaster. Now to start the fight, pop on protect from ranged and a combat boosting prayer, and then select to take the innocent looking key. Treus will then spawn and attack you. Follow Treus around the room and attack him, and note that the flashing arrow will always show its location even when he's traveling underground. At all times, avoid standing on the minecart tracks unless you're quickly running over them, and also when possible, avoid standing next to the cranes too. Be sure to eat as the chip damage wears you down. I got rather lucky and my fight went a bit too smoothly if I'm honest, and I'd expect yours to be a lot more annoying. And again, if he pulls you north, just be really careful because that area is a bit of a dangerous death trap. Before too long, you should defeat Treus. After you beat the boss, you'll want to head back to the key in the middle of the room and then take it, and then head east and exit the boss room the same way that you entered it before continuing east and climbing up the stairs. Now pop on protect from melee if you have access to it and run west for a long ways all the way to the opposite end of the floor. whereby you'll come across another staircase leading down. Select to go down it, and then head a little east whereby you'll come across a large door. Choose to open it using your newly acquired key to go through, and afterwards run southeast until you come across some glowing purple crystals. Select cut on one of the crystal outcrops before bam, quest complete. You'll be awarded the ability to make and use salve amulets for a strong bonus against undead monsters, access to Tarn's Lair, access to a shortcut to the crystal outcrops, 22,000 strength XP, and 2 quest points. Now while you're here, I'd suggest cutting a few more crystal outcrops so you can make some backup salve amulets. Also, if you brought your pickaxe along and you have 55 mining, then you'll now want to run northeast whereby you'll see some mithril ore veins inside the walls. Select to mine one of them, and after you get a mithril ore from it, you'll complete a Hard Mauritania achievement diary task. Also know that just south of here, along the southeastern corner of the area, will be a cart tunnel. You can now crawl through this shortcut to reach the entrance floor, and of course it can also be used from the entrance floor to quickly get to the crystals. Now to make salve amulets, all you need to do is use a ball of wool on the salve shard that you mined. And you're all done. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the next quest.